Somewhere inside China, there are places that have existed for millions of years that the world has almost completely forgotten. No travel brochure prepared you for this. No documentary has taken you here before. What you are about to see is the China that even most Chinese people have never witnessed with their own eyes. And it begins here. Look at what is in front of you. These are not hills, not ridges, not anything that fits inside the vocabulary of landscapes you have seen before. What you are looking at are thousands of stone pillars rising straight up from a valley floor, so deep that the bottom has disappeared entirely into white cloud. Each one standing alone. Some over 300 meters tall. Draped in ancient forest growing directly from bare rock, holding entire ecosystems on their shoulders while mist moves between them like something alive. This is Zhangjiajie, and the ground beneath these pillars has not moved in 300 million years. At a time when the very first forests were just learning to exist on land, this rock was already ancient. Layer upon layer of quartz sandstone compressed over hundreds of millions of years, building upward with a patience that makes the entire history of human civilization look like a single, quiet afternoon. Then water arrived. Slowly, persistently, infiltrating cracks in the rock over millions of years, dissolving everything soft, until what remained were these columns, standing alone after everything around them had been quietly taken away. There are over 3,000 of them. Walking the valley floor between these pillars does something to the body that no photograph prepares you for. You are not simply small here. You are operating at the wrong scale, entirely a temporary visitor, moving through a world built for geological time, not human lifespans. On mornings when low cloud sits at mid-height across the valley, the tops of the tallest pillars emerge above the white, while their bases remain hidden below. They appear to have left the ground completely, floating, suspended in open air with a stillness that makes the impossible look inevitable. You've seen this before, in a film, in a world the filmmakers told you was fiction. It wasn't fiction. It was here. When the team behind Avatar needed a visual language for a world beyond human imagination, they came to Zhangjiajie. The floating Hallelujah Mountains of that film are these pillars borrowed from reality and placed inside science fiction, because reality in this valley was already doing everything imagination could conceive, and several things it couldn't. That film became one of the highest grossing in cinema history. This landscape has been here for 300 million years, entirely unbothered by the comparison. Have you ever seen somewhere that made even your favorite film feel small? Drop it in the comments. Because Zhangjiajie does that to Avatar every single morning. But here is what no film ever showed you. What exists above the pillars, above the mist, above everything you just witnessed? Tianmen Mountain. Its name translates as Heaven's Gate. And the moment you see what crowns its summit, you understand that whoever named it was not being poetic. They were being precise. Near its summit, the rock face is pierced by a natural arch, 60 meters tall and over 50 meters wide, large enough that a formation of military jets flew directly through it in an official air show. Water found weakness in this mountain over millions of years, working patiently until the weakest point gave way entirely, and the sky appeared on the other side. The sky, on the other side? 999 stone steps climb toward the arch through pine forest and mountain mist. In Chinese tradition, 999 represents the threshold of completion. The final step, the 1000th, belongs to the journey itself. Never fully arrived at, always becoming. Every person who climbs these steps arrives at the arch already changed, already quieter, already more attentive than they were at the bottom. Standing beneath the arch and looking through it at open sky produces something that needs no cultural context to be felt. A rectangle of blue, so clean and absolute, it reads less like sky and more like an answer to a question the climb has been asking with every single step. Some places exceed every category available to describe them. Places the mind receives and then quietly argues with for hours, looking for the explanation that makes it ordinary, and failing to find one. And perhaps that is what China does better than anywhere else on Earth. It builds things, mountains, arches, entire valleys, that make the human heart go quiet, if only for a moment. Tell us where in the world you are watching from. Subscribe to Vast Earth and turn on your notifications, because what is coming next includes a mountain range that burns in 6 simultaneous colors. A lake so impossibly blue that scientists spent years arguing about whether the color was even natural. And a sacred summit so narrow that 2 temples share one rock spire above the clouds, connected by a bridge wide enough for a single person and absolutely nothing else. All of it is real. All of it is China. And none of it looks like anything you have ever seen. There is a place in northwestern China where the mountains are on fire. Not literally, but when you see them for the first time, when your eyes land on what the Earth has been quietly building here for 24 million years, the word fire is the only one that arrives quickly enough. Red. Deep arterial red, bleeding into orange, into yellow, into streaks of turquoise and violet, and a brown so rich it reads almost as gold in the right light. Layer upon layer of color, stacked into ridges and waves that curve across the landscape like something deliberately, carefully painted. This is Zhangye Danxia, and it is entirely, completely, impossibly real. The colors are not painted. They are not filtered. They are mineral iron oxide, turning the sandstone red, other compounds introducing the yellows and greens and blues, the whole palette locked into the rock over 24 million years of accumulation and tectonic pressure. 24 million years of color, building in silence, layer by layer. While the rest of the world went about its business entirely unaware, the process began when this entire region sat at the bottom of an ancient inland sea. Minerals and sediments settled to the floor in distinct layers, each one a different chapter in the geological story of this land. Then, tectonic forces pushed them upward, and wind and rain spent millions of years sculpting what the pressure had created into the ridges and valleys you see today. What remains looks less like geology and more like intention, like someone sat down with the entire mineral history of the Earth and decided, without any concern for restraint, to make something extraordinary. Early morning is not simply the best time to visit Zhangye Danxia. It is the only time. The first rays of sunlight hit the ridgelines, and the entire landscape ignites, reds intensifying, yellows softening to gold, long shadows creating a depth that the flat light of midday completely erases. No two viewpoints are the same here. Move 200 meters along the pathway, and the formation that appeared flat reveals itself as a cascading wave. Move further, and the wave becomes sharp ridges, angular, precise, entirely different in character from what existed moments before. The landscape does not sit still. It performs. It is a living painting, one that has been working on itself for 24 million years and has not yet decided it is finished. Have you ever stood in front of something that made you feel like the word beautiful was simply not large enough? Tell us in the comments. Because Zhangye Danxia makes every superlative feel like an understatement. But here is what makes this region truly extraordinary. It is not only what the earth built here, it is what survived here, against every logical expectation. Drive 2 hours from the burning ridges of Zhangye Danxia and the Gobi Desert opens around you. Sand dunes rise on every side. The horizon, in every direction, the same golden, empty, absolute. And then, in the middle of all of it, a crescent of deep blue water. Crescent Lake sits at the base of the Mingsha mountain dunes outside Dunhuang, a small, perfectly curved body of water surrounded on every side by desert that by every observable rule should have swallowed it generations ago. The dunes shift constantly, and yet the water remains, its crescent shape preserved, its surface still and impossibly blue against the surrounding gold. It has been here for over 2,000 years. 2,000 years of desert winds. 2,000 years of shifting dunes. 2,000 years of conditions specifically designed to eliminate exactly this kind of thing. And the lake remains. A hidden underground spring feeds it from below, maintaining its level against the constant pressure of the surrounding desert. But the explanation does nothing to reduce the impact of what you see when you crest the final dune and the blue appears below you. Because your eyes receive the color before your mind receives the explanation. And in that gap, something happens that science cannot fully account for. Relief. Not wonder. Not amazement. Relief. As though the survival of this small crescent of water confirms something the human spirit needed confirmed. That fragile things can endure. That beauty, when stubborn enough, outlasts even the most inhospitable conditions surrounding it. Silk Road traders stopped here for centuries. Caravans carrying silk, spices, ideas, and faiths paused at this lake before continuing into the desert. A small temple pavilion still stands at the water's edge, built not for ceremony, but for shelter. Reeds grow at the shoreline, their roots holding the edge of the lake against the encroachment of sand with the same quiet stubbornness the lake itself has demonstrated for 2,000 years. Some things survive not because the conditions allow it, but because they simply refuse to disappear. And in a country as vast and ancient as China, that kind of refusal turns out to be everywhere. In the rock, in the water, in the people who built their lives beside both. What is coming next takes that refusal and multiplies it across 1,300 years of human hands, shaping a mountainside into something that from above looks less like agriculture and more like art. We are going there now. Imagine standing on a hillside in southern China at dawn. the sky above just beginning to separate from darkness. Gray becoming blue, blue becoming the faintest suggestion of gold at the horizon. And below you, cascading down the mountain in every direction, fields. But not fields in any sense you have encountered before. Curved fields, stacked fields, fields flowing down the mountain in long arcing bands that follow the natural contours of the slope so precisely, so fluidly, that the boundary between what nature made and what human hands built has simply ceased to exist. And when the first light hits the water sitting in those fields, the entire mountain becomes a mirror. This is Yuanyang, and what you are looking at are rice terraces that the honey people of Yunnan province have been building, maintaining, and farming for over 1,300 years. 1,300 years. Every curved wall built by hand. Every water channel designed without modern engineering. Every repair carried out by people who learned how from the people before them across 65 generations of unbroken knowledge, passed like a language, the land itself taught first. The terraces cover over 113 square kilometers of mountainside, recognized as a UNESCO World Heritage Site, not simply for their beauty, but for what they represent as a feat of collective human intelligence across more than a millennium. The irrigation system requires no pumps, no machinery. The Hani designed it to work with gravity alone, channeling water from sacred forests at the summit through a network that delivers it to each terrace in precise sequence. Those forests are protected not by law, but by belief. And because they have been treated as sacred for 1,300 years, the water has never stopped flowing. In winter, when the terraces flood in preparation for the next planting, the water in each field catches the sky. The entire mountainside becomes a vast, undulating mirror, reflecting clouds in motion. Photographers describe the sensation of watching the mountain breathe. At sunrise, the colors shift from deep gray to pale gold to a pink so delicate it seems borrowed from somewhere else entirely. Each terrace catching light at a slightly different angle. A sequence the mountain assembles fresh every single morning. Has been assembling for 1,300 years. Have you ever witnessed something made by human hands that felt more like nature than anything nature made alone? Tell us in the comments. Because Yuanyang is that place. When human beings work with the land instead of against it, something is created that neither could have produced alone. Leaving the terraced mountains of Yuanyang and moving west through Yunnan province, the landscape begins to change. The steep hillsides soften. The dense vegetation opens. And then, as the road curves around a final ridge, the water appears. Erhai Lake. Its name means ear-shaped sea. A long, curved body of water, sitting in a high valley between the Kangshan Mountains to the west and the city of Dali to the east, its shoreline tracing a shape that suggests something organic, something formed not by accident, but by deliberate design. At nearly 2,000 meters above sea level, the air above it carries a clarity that lower altitude lakes simply cannot produce. The Kangshan Mountains rise directly from the western shore to peaks exceeding 4,000 meters, their reflection in the still lake surface creating a vertical world that appears to descend infinitely into the water below. The Bai people have lived along the shores of Erhai for over 1,000 years. Their white-walled villages, decorated with painted murals, sit close to the water. They did not simply settle beside this lake. They built their entire culture around it, their festivals, their food, their understanding of time and season, all shaped by the rhythms of the water beside them. Cormorant fishing, an ancient practice where trained birds dive for fish and return to the boat, has been conducted on Erhai for over 1,000 years. A cooperation so practiced and so completely natural that watching it from the shore feels less like observing a technique and more like witnessing a language spoken between species. In the evening, when the Fanjingshan Mountains catch the last light and their reflection deepens in the lake below, Erhai becomes something that resists description and simply demands presence. The water holds the colors of the sky with a faithfulness that feels almost personal. There is a pace to life beside Erhai that the modern world has largely stopped producing. Not slow in the sense of stagnant, slow in the sense of deliberate, of each moment receiving the attention it deserves. It is perspective. And perspective, as this journey is about to demonstrate, takes many forms in China. Some found beside still water at dusk, and some found at the edge of a drop so extreme that the only appropriate response is to stop, to grip whatever is closest, and remind yourself, with considerable effort, that the ground beneath your feet is solid. We are going there next. There is a mountain in Jiuzhaigou province that splits at the top. Not gradually, not in the way ridges separate over distance, but sharply, completely, as though something enormous drove itself upward through the summit and forced the rock apart, leaving two separate spires standing side by side, each topped with a temple, and between them nothing. A gap of open air and mist, and the particular silence of places that exist closer to the sky than to the earth. This is Fanjingshan, one of the most sacred Buddhist mountains in China. One temple is dedicated to Maitreya, the Buddha yet to come. The future, the next age of enlightenment still arriving. The other honors Shakyamuni, the historical Buddha, whose teachings have endured for 2,500 years. Past and future, separated by a chasm of open air, connected by a stone bridge, narrow enough that two people cannot cross it side by side. That bridge, suspended between the two spires at over 2,000 meters above sea level. On one side, the past. On the other, the future. And beneath you, far beneath you, the present. Moving through cloud and mist and the vertigo of a place where the ground has become theoretical. Pilgrims have been making the ascent for centuries. The path climbs through dense, subtropical forest, ancient trees draped in moss, their roots gripping the slope with the same stubborn devotion as the pilgrims moving between them. Higher up, the air cools. The sounds of the forest give way to wind, and the occasional bell, carried from the temples above on a gust that arrives without warning and disappears just as quickly. The final approach involves thousands of stone steps carved directly into the rock face. Every step a negotiation. Every landing a small victory. And then the summit appears. The temples on their peaks are modest, small, red-roofed, weathered by altitude into a patina that speaks of long presence. But their position, perched on the very tips of two rock spires above the clouds, with nothing beneath them but air and faith, makes modesty irrelevant. On days when clouds sit at summit level, the two temples appear to float, detached from the earth, suspended in white. Two small structures and the narrow bridge between them, existing in a world that has temporarily erased everything below. Have you ever been somewhere that made you feel simultaneously terrified and completely at peace? Tell us in the comments. Because that is precisely what Fanjingshan does every single day to everyone who arrives. Leaving Fanjingshan and moving northwest through Sichuan province, the landscape shifts. The subtropical humidity gives way to something crisper, cleaner, the air carrying the sharpness of high altitude and approaching snow. And then the peaks appear. 4 of them, rising from the Jiuzhaigou Mountain range in a configuration so dramatic that the legend built around them feels less like mythology and more like accurate observation. Siguniang Mountain, the 4 Girls Mountain. According to the legend that has circulated through this region for generations, 4 sisters were transformed into these peaks, their beauty and devotion to each other preserved forever in stone. The highest peak stands at 6,250 meters above sea level, snow-capped year-round, its summit touching a zone where the sky deepens to a blue so dark it reads almost as violet, almost as space. Changping Valley runs beneath the 4 peaks through open grassland and ancient forest. In spring, wildflowers cover the valley floor in densities that make the green beneath them nearly invisible. Above them, the snow-covered peaks. Below them, glacial streams running cold and clear over stone smoothed by water for longer than any human presence in this valley. But it is sunrise at Siguniang that stays with people longest. As the first light arrives, it finds the snow-covered summits before it finds anything else. The peaks catch the gold first, warming from white to cream to pale orange. Then the pink arrives. A rose so saturated and so fleeting, lasting perhaps 4 minutes, that travelers who planned entire trips around witnessing it describe those 4 minutes as worth every hour of travel required to reach this valley. 4 minutes of color, occurring every morning, witnessed across all the mornings it has happened by remarkably few human eyes. Some things do not perform for an audience. They simply exist, at a scale and on a timeline that makes the distinction between witnessed and unwatched feel very small indeed. What is coming next is perhaps the most powerful demonstration of that truth. A structure so enormous it altered the course of a river, and a waterfall so violent that the sound changes the air pressure in your chest before your eyes have found the water. We are going there now. There are things human beings have built on this earth that stop being architecture the moment you stand in front of them. Not because they are too large to be understood as buildings, but because they are too large to be understood as anything other than belief. Belief made physical, given dimension and weight, and a presence so commanding that the way you breathe changes without any conscious decision to do so. The Leshan giant Buddha is one of those things. Carved into a cliff face at the confluence of 3 rivers in Sichuan province, it stands 71 meters tall. Its shoulders alone are 28 meters wide. A single ear measures 7 meters in length, and its feet, resting on a stone ledge directly above the river, are wide enough to park a dozen full-sized vehicles side by side. It is the largest stone Buddha on Earth. It has held that distinction for over 1,200 years. Construction began in 713 AD, initiated by a monk named Haitong, a man whose commitment exceeded every conventional measure of dedication. The three rivers below the cliff created whirlpools and unpredictable currents that had claimed boats and lives for generations. Haitong believed that carving a Buddha above the confluence would calm the waters. He spent decades fundraising. When one official threatened to extort project funds, Haitong's response entered the historical record with a specificity impossible to dismiss as legend. He gouged out his own eye, placed it in a dish, and presented it to the official as proof that no threat would redirect resources intended for the Buddha. The official withdrew. It took 90 years to complete. Haitong did not live to see it finished. The project outlasted him and continued under two successive governors, each inheriting a commitment that had already cost its originator everything and choosing to continue anyway. And here is where the story becomes something more than devotion. The stone displaced during carving was deposited directly into the rivers below, altering the riverbed, changing the flow patterns, reducing the whirlpools that had been claiming lives for generations. The Buddha worked, not through miracle, through physics, faith and engineering, producing the same outcome through entirely different mechanisms. Approaching by boat, the figure reveals itself gradually. First, the feet, then the knees, then the hands resting on the thighs with a stillness that reads less like stone and more like choice. Then, the face calm, composed, gazing toward the horizon, with an expression 12 centuries of river travelers have been projecting their own meanings onto. The local saying goes that the Buddha is the mountain and the mountain is the Buddha. From the water looking up, that is not poetry. That is accurate description. Have you ever encountered something built by human hands that made you reconsider what human beings are actually capable of? Not the technology, but the will. Tell us in the comments. Moving north from the Leshan Buddha into the border region of Shaanxi, the landscape hardens. The yellow earth of the Loess Plateau dominates compressed, wind-blown silt accumulated over hundreds of thousands of years. And running through it, cutting through it, carrying it is the Yellow River. China's Mother River. The Huanghe has been central to Chinese civilization for 5,000 years. It fed the first settlements, shaped the first dynasties. It is called the Mother River not because it is gentle, it is not gentle, but because, like all things that give life, it also takes, and nowhere does it reveal its true character more completely than at Hukou. Hukou Waterfall. The name means teapot spout, as though the river is being poured from the sky itself. But standing at the railing above it, feeling the spray on your face, before you have even seen the water, the word teapot feels like the most spectacular understatement in the Chinese language. The Yellow River is suddenly compressed here, forced by canyon walls into a passage barely 30 meters wide. And then it drops. All of it. Everything the river has been carrying, dropping at once into a canyon, with a sound that is not simply loud. It is total. It fills the chest before it fills the ears. It arrives in the body as a physical pressure that continues for minutes after you have stepped back from the edge. The water carries the plateau's sediment of thousands of kilometers of travel, fine yellow silt that gives the river its name, its color, and its character. When it hits the canyon base, it erupts into a cloud of atomized earth and water, a spray that rises higher than the canyon rim and drifts across the landscape in a mist that tastes of distance. Of everything the river passed through to arrive here, the Chinese have a proverb. The river does not negotiate with the stone. It simply continues. Standing at Hukou, that proverb stops being a saying and becomes a physical experience. In the particular clarity that arrives when something enormously powerful reminds you without cruelty and without apology exactly how large the world actually is, and how much of it you have not yet seen. What is coming next is the final destination of this journey. A valley where the water runs in colors that lakes are not supposed to run in. The most beautiful place in China. There are people who will tell you that is an overstatement. They have not been to Jiuzhaigou. We are going there now. There are places on this earth that the word beautiful was simply not built to carry. Not because they are beyond description, but because description arrives after the experience. And what happens in the gap between seeing and describing in that moment before language reasserts itself is something that words were never designed to hold. Jiuzhaigou Valley is that gap. Located in the mountains of northern Sichuan province, Jiuzhaigou, the Valley of 9 Villages, stretches across approximately 720 square kilometers of terrain, so extraordinary that UNESCO designated it a World Heritage Site in 1992. Not for one feature, for all of it. For the entire impossible, unrepeatable combination of everything that exists here simultaneously. The lakes are where most people begin. Because the lakes are where the mind first encounters something it cannot resolve. There are over 100 of them, each one a different color from its neighbors. Not slightly different, completely, categorically different. Emerald green beside deep turquoise, pale jade beside a blue, so saturated it reads almost as ink. Milky white beside a transparency so complete that ancient fallen logs, visible on the lake floor 20 meters below, appear close enough to touch. The colors come from calcium carbonate, dissolved from the surrounding limestone, producing a chemistry that interacts with light differently depending on depth, temperature, and mineral concentration of each individual lake. The science is precise. The science is complete. And the science does absolutely nothing to prepare you for the moment. The first lake appears through the tree line, and your eyes receive a blue that no photograph has ever fully reproduced. Because photographs flatten. They remove the quality of high-altitude light striking the lake surface with an intensity that makes the colors glow rather than simply appear. They remove the sound of waterfalls connecting one lake to the next, a constant, layered presence that sits beneath every other experience in this valley, like a musical foundation. They remove the cold, the specific clean mineral cold of air that has traveled over snow-covered peaks before arriving in your lungs. They remove, in short, everything that makes Jiuzhaigou, Jiuzhaigou. Five Flower Lake sits at the heart of the valley, perhaps the single most photographed body of water in China. Ancient fallen tree trunks lie on its floor, some of them centuries old, perfectly preserved by the mineral content of the water surrounding them. Visible in complete detail from above. Their bark, their branches, the texture of wood submerged for longer than most living trees have been alive. Looking down into Five Flower Lake on a clear morning produces a specific kind of vertigo. Not the vertigo of height, The vertigo of depth, of discovering that the surface was not the boundary you assumed it was. That there was more. There is always more. In autumn, the deciduous trees turn gold and amber and a red, so vivid against the blue of the lakes below, that the valley becomes something and the imagination, if you described it without showing it, would reject as too much. As a combination of colors, nature would not actually choose, because the result would be too obviously beautiful. Nature in Jiuzhaigou is not concerned with restraint. Erhai Waterfall, the widest in China, stretches 270 meters across a limestone shelf, its water white and aerated, and alive with a movement so constant that watching it produces something close to the sensation of watching a fire. Hypnotic. Impossible to look away from. Have you ever been somewhere that made leaving feel like a loss you were not prepared for? Tell us in the comments, because that is what Jiuzhaigou does to people. Consistently. Without exception. In 2017, a magnitude 7 earthquake struck the valley. Lakes were disrupted. Waterfalls changed course. And then, over the years that followed, the valley began restoring itself. The water finding new paths. The colors returning different in places, but present. Still impossibly, stubbornly, defiantly present. A landscape that has existed for millions of years absorbed a magnitude 7 earthquake and kept going. Of course it did. And perhaps that is the deepest truth this entire journey has been quietly telling. From the floating pillars of Zhangjiajie to the burning ridges of Zhangye Danxia, from the 1,300-year-old terraces of Yuan to the sacred twin spires of Fanjingshan, from the gaze of the Leshan Buddha to the roar of Hukou, where the mother river announces itself to the canyon. That this earth is not fragile. What it needs, what these landscapes need, is our attention, our willingness to stop, to look, to allow the scale of what exists here to do what it has always done to human beings who encountered it honestly. Make them quiet. Make them small in the best possible sense. Returned to an accurate understanding of where they sit within something vastly larger than any individual life or concern. Most of the world thinks it knows what China looks like. It doesn't. Not until it has seen floating pillars wearing forests in morning mist. Not until it has stood before a mountain range burning in 6 simultaneous colors. Not until it has felt a waterfall in its chest before its eyes found the water. Not until it has been here. If this journey did that for you even slightly, then you already understand why vast Earth exists. Not to show you the world as it is documented, but to show you the world as it actually is. In its full, unreasonable, overwhelming, impossible scale. Tell us in the comments, which landscape stopped you completely? The one you are still thinking about. We read every single one. Subscribe to Vast Earth and turn on your notifications, because the next journey we are taking you on contains landscapes that make everything you witness today look like a gentle introduction to what this planet is actually capable of. The Earth is vast. We are only just beginning to show you